Bridging networks with OpenVPN gateways, this time on Hak5. Hello and welcome to Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen. This is your weekly dose of Technolust, and we have a fantastic show for you today. I say we, but Shannon isn't here. She's on assignment with Patrick Norton in Las Vegas doing CES. I hope to see them back here soon. You should check out their channel, youtube.com/techthing. It's awesome. And today's show, we are going to get into some epic routing foo and ways that you can bridge discrete networks using OpenVPN, and I in particular are going to be using the LAN turtle because it's a embedded Linux box that we can toss anywhere. Oh, yeah, and we make it, so of course. But you could do the same thing with any embedded Linux device that you can drop on a network. So I just want to put it out there because this all came together based on a question from a Hak5 fan known as Vis, who you may know if you go to lots of hacker conferences and like spicy peppers. Regardless, it's a really fun topic and something I've been meaning to do a video on for quite a while, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate first off that these are two discrete networks. In fact, I'm connecting this laptop to the internet tethered to my phone, and then the other network is this switch here, which is tied over to a business cable modem, and we got a couple of servers, and it's the same network on which we will find our LAN turtle, beautifully just plugged into a regular USB power outlet. Okay, so let's take a look at the computer. Basically, if I go ahead, the machine that I want to be able to access is at 10.1.10.12, and if I ping it, I have no route to host, and that's okay. I can remedy this, well, pretty easily. All I have to do is join that network. Well, here we are. We have an Ethernet cable going straight from that network. I'll go ahead and plug it into my computer. Wait a few seconds. I'll do a little if config, and there we go. I have ETH0. ETH0, wait for an IP address. There we go. Now I'm on the 10.1.10 network, and I got .13, so I can ping 10.1.10.12. Awesome. Well, there you go. I am now on that particular network, which is fantastic, except for the fact that this Ethernet cord isn't very long. This here isn't going to really help me when I want to go across the country. And maybe I want to be able to access all of the resources on my LAN here at the Hak5 warehouse, no matter where I go, whether it be on a Windows, a Mac, a Linux box, even an Android phone. And we can do that using an OpenVPN access server for free, quick, and easy. And I'm going to show you how painless that is now. I've got a turkey in the oven. I'm going to show you how that works. Then we're going to take a quick break and build our own turkey. All right, so let's get to it. First thing we need to do is dial in to the OpenVPN server. I already have one running. Let's take a look over here. I've disconnected my Ethernet cable. If I ping that address again, you'll see no route to host. Okay, so packets aren't going through, nobody's happy, but it's okay. We can remedy this situation. I have a virtual private server sitting on DigitalOcean. Pick your VPS provider of choice. I happen to like DigitalOcean because they spin up pretty quickly and they're pretty inexpensive. So I have this server here, happy bunny spider monkey kill kill kill. Gonna go ahead and copy that address and head there on port 943/admin. Should already be logged in. I'm logged in. I've got an OpenVPN access server. If I come over to current users, we can see we already have a user dialed in called Turtle, and it has this IP address over here. Well, it's a little bit more tricky than just having an IP address. We actually need to tell this Turtle sitting right here on this network that not only is it going to be a client of our OpenVPN server that's sitting up in the cloud, but it is also going to act as a gateway. Even though it's only a client, it's not a server, it's not punching holes in the firewall, it's not opening ports or anything, it's just a client. But it is going to dial out from this network, which is a lot easier than dialing in. And as its outgoing connection, it's also going to act as a gateway for anybody else that's also dialed in. So you can see the Turtle goes like this, I go like this, we meet in the middle, the packets flow. So to make that all happen, all we have to do is take a look down here under user permissions. And I have a couple of users here. I have Frog, which will in this case be my laptop. And then I have Turtle, which is my little embedded device over there. Both of them are set for auto login. And if I show the Turtle setting, I have it set to VPN gateway. It's set to configure as a VPN gateway and allow me access to this 10.1.10.0/24 network. So with that set, all I have to do now from my computer, even though I can't ping that. This will all be remedied as soon as I do sudo openvpn with tactec configure frog.ovpn, and after the break we'll talk about how we get our ovpn files. They're just little config files that tell them how to dial in. So now my OpenVPN client on Linux is dialing in. This is a little prettier on Windows or OS X or Android, but still, you can see this finished. I got my initialization complete, and we've got a bunch of route ads here. Sweet. Now we should be able to access some additional networks. Let me open a new tab over here, and I'm going to ping, once again, 10.1.10.12, and you'll see the packets are flowing. How are the packets flowing? Pretty simple. Check this out. So if I cancel that and do a trace route on that IP, you'll see it's a very simple hop. The very first hop is 172.27.232.1. Well, wait a second. That's a 127 address, so it's not actually a public IP internet address, because as we just saw from my OpenVPN server, if we look here, it's actually at 104.236. yada, yada, yada. Okay, so what that actually is it's the OpenVPN server. If I list these current users, you'll see we have both the turtle logged in. Let me make that a little bigger for you. We've got the turtle logged in, and we have the frog logged in, both on two discrete networks. We can see their real addresses, but we can also see their VPN IP addresses. In this case, the turtle got an IP address on the VPN's LAN at 172.27.232.6, and then I got .9. Well, .1 is the server, and that's our first hop. The next hop is .6, and that's the turtle, and then through the turtle we get to .12. So what all of this means is that without opening ports in the firewall or anything, I now have access not only to my one server on this network, but the entire network. I can actually come back over here, and instead of pinging .12, I could ping .1. I could nmap the entire network. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you, now that I've shown you like the turkey in the oven, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to build our very own turkey VPN. If you've been watching Hak5 for a while, you know how much we love domain.com, and you know what? Hey guys, thanks for the hoodie. They're affordable, they're fast, they're reliable, they're easy to use. Shannon and I use them all the time. They're a go-to place when we want to bring our ideas to the internet. They've got a domain discovery system that makes it easy to take your mind and put it into the internet, and then your website's up and running in no time at all. And you know what's best of all? That they are huge fans of Hak5. They've been supporting us for years, and they've got the hookup for you. That's right, if you use the coupon code HAK5, you get an extra 15% off when you check out at domain.com. So, when you think domain names, think domain.com. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we'll need to do is configure our OpenVPN server, and we're going to run this on a virtual private server in the cloud. We'll then need to set up the client, and this will be our pentest machine, and that could be anywhere. And then we will configure the LAN turtle for deployment at the client site so that we can get access to the LAN turtle from anywhere, but not just the LAN turtle, but also the entire network for which the LAN turtle is hosted. So let's go ahead and get started. I have a couple of VPSs pulled up here, and I just created this new guy here. So let's go ahead and log in. I'm going to copy that in, and I'm going to SSH as root, whoops, over to that new server, and enter my newly generated password. All right, so the next thing we need to do now that we're on this freshly installed machine is go ahead and install the OpenVPN access server. We can grab that from swupdate.openvpn.org/as and just make sure you get the version for your correct architecture. In this case, I'm grabbing the 64-bit deb from my Ubuntu box here. I'll just wget that. And once that's wgetted, we can go ahead and install it with dpkg taci for install, and that deb file right there. And we're going to go ahead and get prompted with all of this information here about how to access the admin UI. First thing that we'll need to do is, as it says, issue passwd OpenVPN for that OpenVPN account. We'll create a strong password, as this will be the admin account for our OpenVPN AS server. And then the next thing is that we'll want to reconfigure this manually using this command here, usr local OpenVPN AS bin OpenVPN init. So first thing we need to do is right, delete, get rid of the current configuration, that default stuff, and we'll configure this manually in the command line. And we accept the agreement. Next thing is to say whether this is a primary access server. It is, so yes. I'm going to go ahead and say 1 for all interfaces. We'll leave the default port, and we'll go with most of the defaults here, except for local authentication. By default is no. We want local authentication to be yes. We're not using a radius server or anything like that. And the rest of this is just defaults. We don't have a license key because we're just going to be using the free version with 2 concurrent clients for the time being. All right, and once again, we're given these addresses. So let's go ahead and copy this address here for the admin UI and head over there in our browser. Okay, of course, this is not a valid SSL certificate, or it's a self-signed certificate, so we'll go ahead and accept that. And we can log in now. Let me increase that font size there. With OpenVPN, that account that we just created on that Linux box. Awesome. Okay, so at this point, we have gone ahead and configured OpenVPN for the most part. There's a few other things as far as setting up access for the users, downloading their credential files and pushing them to those users. But the setup and installation of the server itself, as you can see, is pretty easy and straightforward. So at this point, let's just check a few things and move forward. First thing, yes, again, we agree to that license. And I do want to go ahead under authentication and click general and just verify that yes, in fact, local is set up. And let me increase the font size on this so it's a little easier for you guys to see on the podcast. Cool. So at this point, we can go ahead and actually set up our user accounts. So let's go ahead and do that. What we'll need to do is create users with auto login preferences. So under user management, click user permissions. And we need to go ahead and create a user for ourselves. We're not going to dial in using the OpenVPN account. That's just for administration. We're going to create a new user account for our laptop. And I'm going to call it pentester. Great. And I'm going to check auto login. You don't have to. I just prefer to do this. And it means that we don't have to type in our password every time. Save settings, and then we'll update the running server. That's pretty much it for our pentester account. We do have to specify a password, so if I click here under show, I'll go ahead and give it a good password and come down here and save settings. Great. Update the running server once again. So now we're at the point where we can actually set up our turtle. So our turtle user account is going to be slightly different. We're going to have to set a few different parameters that are basically going to allow access to the network for which it is hosted to all of the other clients on this VPN. And I say all the other clients, it's going to be the turtle, and it's going to be pentester. But let's go ahead and see how that looks. All right, so let's create a new user here called turtle. And we're going to make sure that we check allow auto login, because obviously we're not going to be interactive on the turtle when we deploy this, so we won't be able to type in a password. Save settings, update that running server, and then show the settings under turtle. There's a few things that we need to check here. First of all, VPN gateway. This is going to configure this, even though it's a client. This is the interesting part. Normally, when it comes to setting up a VPN server, you would deploy a box inside the network, you would open ports on the firewall, and then people would be able to dial in through into that and have access to the rest of the network. So this is similar to that in that we're providing access to the rest of the network, except that we're not having to ask the network administrator to give us access to certain ports and do some forwarding and things of that nature. We're actually just going to go out as a client to this virtual private network, our server in the cloud. And because we're a client, we don't have to open up ports or anything funky like that. It's really just establishing a connection. In fact, it's over 433, just like any other HTTPS traffic. So in that case, most networks are going to allow the turtle, in this case, once it's on that network, to go ahead and make a connection out. And then through that tunnel, we'll be able to, as the pen tester, tunnel back in. And so the setting that allows us to do that is right here. Basically, we need to say yes to configure VPN gateway. Then we do need to know the network for which we'll be deploying this on. And in this case, that's going to be 10.1.10.0/24. It's a /24 network there. We also need to check both of these. We want allow access from all server-side private subnets as well as all VPN clients. And that's pretty much it as far as the settings that we need to set for the Turtle account itself. So just make sure that yours looks like this. The only thing that's very specific is the IP address on which you're going to deploy. And there are many ways using the Turtle to find out what IP range the network you've connected to is. And then you can always update this setting later. As I'll show you now, I'll hit Save Settings. And then, of course, all I have to do is update the running server. So what's really cool about this is that all of the configuration changes that we're making here are actually stored in the server. When we go ahead and actually download these OpenVPN configuration files, basically it says, hey, for your configuration, query the server. It will let you know what to do. So in this case, I've said, hey, do all of this cool forwarding that allows the Turtle to act as a VPN gateway, and that's configured on the server side. So once we've set this up once, I can use this now on all sorts of different networks. The only thing that it may have to change is the address for which network it's going to be sharing. All right, so with that all set up, let's go ahead and configure our clients. So to do that, as you can see here, we're logged into /admin on this server. I'm going to go ahead and open up an incognito window and browse to not /admin. Okay, so this is what it typically looks like for a client to log in. And I'm going to go ahead and log in as, let's see, who should we do first? Let's do my machine here first, so pentester. And if you do this on a Windows machine or a Mac, it'll offer you, it'll immediately notice based on your user agent, which one, and offer you an executable of that nature. As you can see here, there's native clients here for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and Linux. But what we want to do is, I already have OpenVPN installed, and I can show you that here. It's basically, why did I close that pipe? Didn't need to do that. Okay, back on my VPS. But on my local machine here, I can see that I have OpenVPN, and I can do a TAC version and see. Okay, so I have OpenVPN installed. If you don't, it's just a matter of sudo apt get install OpenVPN, or whatever your package manager may be on your Linux distro if you're using Linux. Otherwise, if you're using Windows, Mac, Android, or iOS, this is just as simple as downloading one of these. So for our pen tester, since we're using Linux, I'm going to download my auto login profile, and I'm going to name it here as pentester.ovpn. All right, so that's for me. What about for the Turtle? I'm going to go ahead and log out, and let's log in as the Turtle. And that didn't work because I actually haven't specified a password for the Turtle. So let me come back here, under Turtle, hit Show, specify a password. Come down here and save settings, update the running server. Okay, and now I should be able to log in. Great. Download the auto login profile. I'm going to name it turtle.ovpn. There we go. Okay, so now I've downloaded both of my client logins. It's just a matter of going ahead and getting the client information over to the Turtle. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in my Turtle to my laptop. And while my Turtle is booting up, I'm going to go ahead and open up this Turtle OVPN in, say, gedit. And I'm going to just go ahead and select the entire thing and copy it to my clipboard. I'm going to close that. And at this point, I should be able to go ahead and log into my LAN Turtle. And if I ifconfig, I can see I'm connected to my LAN Turtle over eth26. So let's SSH into the LAN Turtle. And I'll go to Modules and come down to the OpenVPN module, configure that. And here I'm just going to go ahead and paste. And this is the OpenVPN configuration file. You'll notice it has a bunch of certificates in there. That's kind of awesome. It keeps the CA and the key and everything else all into one file. And that's what allows us to log in without having to be interactive. All right, I'll hit OK. And now I'll just configure this module to start up on boot by hitting Enable. I see boot up status is set to enable. And at this point, I can just go ahead and back out of all of these menus. And I'll exit my SSH session so I can go ahead and unplug my Turtle. There we go. All right, so now I'm ready to deploy my turtle on the LAN. I'm going to do this, well, do it however you would in whatever social engineering context you can. In this case, I'm just going to power this guy off of just a regular, any USB power adapter and plug it straight into the LAN. I could also go ahead and do that inline as a USB Ethernet adapter into a client computer, and it would connect to the LAN, and it wouldn't be any different than this. But in this case, it's going to go ahead and start booting up. And while it's doing that, let's take a look at the OpenVPN server. All right, if we go to current users, and there we go, and we see our VPN IP address and the real address and all of that. So with this all set up, let's go ahead and I'm first going to show you that I am not connected to the network. Let's see, am I online? Yes, I'm online. Great. So I'll be able to dial into the VPN. But if you see, if I ping 10.1.10.12, I don't have any route to that host. That's not going to happen. But since, if I ls, I have this pentester VPN file, all I have to do is a sudo openvpn configure pentester.openvpn. And it's not configure, it's config. There we go. So this is dialing in, and the initialization sequence is complete. You can see we did a few route adds here. If I come back over to the server and show the current users, you'll see that I notice turtle as well as pentest. If I actually copy this address here, the 172.2.7, I can open a new terminal, and I can ping that address, and that's going through the VPN. So if I wanted to, I could, for instance, SSH as root into that address. And would you look at that, it's my turtle. But moreover, if I exit out of that, I can now ping 10.1.10.1. Oh, look at that. Which means that I can also hit 10.1.10.12 because I can see the entire network, which now means if I open a new tab and go to 10.1.10.12, there we are. So there you have it. I am, connected to the internet through my phone. I could be anywhere in the world, and because my turtle is set up to be a client on the OpenVPN server that we set up, as well as to be a VPN gateway, now I can access not only the turtle, but also all of the other machines on that network, which is awesome for penetration testers and systems administrators alike. The one other thing that I want to show you before we wrap this up is a configuration issue that you may notice on the turtle as it pertains to your firewall. I just want to review that real quick because that will solve any kind of routing issues that you may be having. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So in that case, you know what? I can actually do this through the VPN. We're VPN'd in, so I don't have to connect it to my client machine. I could be in Hawaii right now. So let me go ahead and SSH back into that guy. And let me make this a little bigger for you. All right. So let me exit out of here. And there's two things that you're going to want to set up on the LAN turtle if it isn't already configured for you. In /etc/config, you'll want to take a look at your network file here. And you'll want to make sure that you have an interface called VPN, and its interface name is ton0. Ton0 is the interface that the OpenVPN session actually creates, and set up your protocol to be DHCP. If I actually quit out of that and run ifconfig, you'll notice here's my ton0, and this is the IP address I have on the VPN server. Okay, so now that we've defined a VPN network, the last thing is to take a look at your firewall and make sure that you have routing to and from that. So you see here that we have a zone configured, and this is by default to have a zone called LAN, and it accepts in and out and forward. Similarly, we now also have a zone called VPN that accepts in, out, and forward. And then the last thing here is to go ahead and make sure that you have forwarding going between the WAN. So similar to how we have the WAN and the LAN allowing source and destination forwarding, we have the exact same thing, configure forwarding, source VPN destination WAN, and then the other way around from source WAN to destination VPN. As long as all of those are set, then everything is going to be super happy and packets will flow. That was kind of a lot. I'm sure you have some questions. Go ahead and leave them in the comments. Like I said, I'm doing this with the Land Turtle, but really any Linux machine would be able to do this. Of course, I'm partial to the Land Turtle because we make them, and that's one of the reasons we did, is to be a covert Dropbox that you can just toss anywhere, make it function and look like a USB Ethernet adapter and go unnoticed. And did so for the same reasons as always, the one side being a penetration tester, the other side being a systems administrator. So those really go hand in hand. Would love to hear your thoughts on this, so go ahead and leave them in the comments. Shannon, we'll be back next week. Very excited about that. So we'll be back with all sorts of good techno-lusty good stuff. I think we're actually in Vegas for a weird, super funky thing. I'll tell you guys all about that later. But anyway, thanks so much. If you're into the Land Turtle stuff, you can learn more about that at landturtle.com. You'll find links there to all of the community resources, such as the forums. And I look forward to hearing your comments. With that, I'm Darren Kitchen, and until next week, trust your technolust. I don't know why I did that like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, these are not the VPNs you're looking for.